Hey, today we're going to give you a pro tip to living like a local in San Antonio. Keep watching. We're going to reveal that bonus tip after we tell you about 4 things you did not know about living in San Antonio.
Hi, this is Living Local San Antonio with Alyse and Jay.
That's Jay and I'm Alyse. Hey, if you have any questions, comments, keep the back comments to yourself. Kidding. Please feel free to reach out to us. Our information's in the description.
Yes, please feel free to call, text, or email us. We're going to jump right in. I'm going to get into the first thing that you did not know about living in San Antonio, Texas. And that's probably that San Antonio is one of the oldest cities in America. It was established in 1718. And we just had a huge celebration a few years back in 2018 to honor the city turning 300 years old. And if you think about it, going that far back in time, that means that we are less than 100 years since the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock. And I know a lot of us historically think of that as kind of the beginnings of America. So that's, a pretty tight timeline in the big scope of things. And that also means that we're as old as places like New Orleans, over in Louisiana, and Savannah and Georgia. And we're somewhere among the 20 to 30 oldest cities in the United States. And some of those lists include cities that were started in 1000 AD. So on some of those lists, that's the way it starts. Other ones start with just the more recent history, which oddly enough makes St. Augustine the oldest city in America, somewhere around the mid 1500s, 1565, I think. It was a Spanish colony down in Florida. So anyway, to put all that in perspective, either way you slice it, we're still among those oldest cities, which is probably something that you did not know. A few other things, just bringing that closer to home. San Antonio is roughly 120 years older than Austin, Houston, and or Dallas, right? So Houston was established in 1936. I'm sorry, 1836. Austin in 1839. Dallas in 1841. And since they kind of used the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area, Fort Worth in 1849, just a few years after.
So, the second thing you didn't know is we are a World Heritage Site. What's a World Heritage Site? Great question. World Heritage Sites are culture and or natural sites considered to be of outstanding universal value. That's cool. Which has been inscribed on the World Heritage list by the World Heritage Committee. A lot of World Heritage in there. These places and or buildings are thought to have special importance to everyone. So there's only 24 World Heritage Sites designated in the entire USA. These include the Statue of Liberty and great places like Yellowstone Park and the Grand Canyon. Worldwide, the San Antonio Missions, and that's our World Heritage Site, is the San Antonio Missions. And the same company as the Taj Mahal in India, Great Wall of China, Machu Picchu in Peru, the Colosseum in Rome, even Paris, Notre Dame, or Notre Dame, however you want to say it, the Louvre, and the Eiffel Tower. So it's pretty cool to have something in our city that's in common with all of those really, really cool sites.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty amazing to live in a city like that you have that kind of thing around and available every day. So
Yep.
that brings us to topic number 3, which is things that you didn't know about San Antonio is Fiesta. And Fiesta is a citywide celebration, but some of the things that you may not have known is that it's over 130 years old. So the story goes back in 1891, a group of female citizens, they decided to honor the heroes of the Alamo and the Battle of San Jacinto with a parade, and that parade became known as the Battle of Flowers. It's also worth noting that the Battle of Flowers parade is still the only one in the country to be planned and directed completely by women. So that's a pretty huge thing to have accomplished for 130 years. And also the first parade, they had, things like horse-drawn carriages and bicycles decorated with fresh flowers. And that's kind of where they got the flowers idea, right? And they were just, flowers everywhere. And it happens to be in April, which totally makes sense because that's spring, right? But shortly after that first successful parade, it became kind of an immediate success within San Antonio. And over the few years after that, more events were added. They had things like carnivals and balls and the coronation of San Antonio royalty, and all those things. Those Fiesta traditions had been born and they were starting out at that time. And today, Fiesta, it spans over 2 weeks with hundreds of events, and those include over 3 million visitors that come in during that time. And it has an economic impact of over $350 million to the city. So it's a huge event and a huge part of the city and the culture. Speaking of those Fiesta traditions, the traditions that we have are parades, obviously with the Battle of Flowers, but we also have the night parade, we have river parades, we have much smaller parades in different little neighborhoods. We also have the cascarones that everybody, you see them smash the eggs on people's heads. That's a big part of Fiesta as well. And of course, the Fiesta hats, where you have these big, giant, elaborate hats. I mean, you can imagine them as crazy as you want, even down to the smallest little flower wreath that a lot of the people will wear.
What I wear.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's the Fiesta medals, which every group and organization, they kind of either give away medals or sell their medals to raise money for their various charities and nonprofits. And so you'll see people with big sashes of medals going around, or a few medals on their shirts going around. So that's another huge tradition. And in fact, we even created our own Fiesta tradition with J Day.
Yeah. Jay has his own day of the year. It's not his birthday, it's J Day. And he planned it during Fiesta because it's the best and it's so fun. But anyway, we'll save more for that later. The fourth topic you don't know about San Antonio is we are the 7th largest city in San Antonio. People just don't, for some reason, don't see San Antonio as a big city. I've even had friends ask me if we had an airport, which blew my mind, but it was pretty funny. He did say you had to get out more often if you didn't know that, but I keep giving a hard time about that. And we're one of only 10 cities with 1 million plus in population. We're actually larger than cities like Denver, Las Vegas, one of my favorite cities, Kansas City, Hiron and Cary, Sacramento, and Nashville nationally. We're the 2nd largest city in Texas behind Houston. We're larger than Austin, Dallas, and Fort Worth. But of course, if you combine the Dallas-Fort Worth area, they're larger, but metro numbers can be off because that would also make them larger than Houston, and that's just not the way it works. So yeah, the metroplexes get huge.
Yeah. And another thing that's just interesting about San Antonio being this big city, because that's been one of the things that they say about football teams. Well, we can't have a pro team because we're just not in a big enough metro area. But there's a lot of cities on these metro area lists, like Kansas City and Nashville and Vegas and those types of places that we're bigger than. So I think there's room. I just think we're too close to Dallas and Houston for the Cowboys and the Texans to really make that a thing. So if you want to live like a local in San Antonio, Texas, then listen up, because when someone asks you what school you went to, if you're from the rest of the world, when you get asked that question, it usually means what college or university did you go to? But here in San Antonio, that question means they want to know what high school that you went to. And it's kind of a tell between the locals, right? So you know who's from here and who's not from here just by how they answer that question. But it's really a kind of a interesting thing, right? Because you can really get to know somebody quickly that way when you ask that question, because San Antonio has that small town vibe. And when you get to know what school they went to, you probably know someone who also went there, or you had a friend or cousin or somebody that went there. So all of a sudden, you'll have a few friends or things in common right away. I mean, it's just crazy the way that can go.
Yeah, it actually happened to me last night. I ran into somebody and he said, "Hey, you look familiar." And I said, "Well, what's your name?" And he said, "Nigel." And I was like, "Okay." He's like, "Nigel's Wine Bar." And I'm like, "I know Nigel's Wine Bar." And he said, "What school did you go to?" And of course, knowing he's from San Antonio and me too, I said, "Lee." And I said, "Where did you go?" And he said, "TMI." And I said, "Oh, my cousin went to TMI, but he's older than me." And he said, "What's his name?" And I said, "Trey Alonso." And he said, "I actually graduated with him and he was a good friend of mine. He was in town the other day." And I was like, "Yes, he was." So blah, blah, blah. And my sister Audrey used to hang out with him a lot when they were in high school. I said, "Yes, Audrey Alonso and your other sisters, Amber and Amy, da, 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 da." So it was pretty funny. He's like, "Yep, I know your entire family."
Yep, that's how it happens. It's just that quick in San Antonio from that one secret question.
Yep. Yeah, so anyhow, hey, if you want to talk more about San Antonio, we're happy to help. Please feel free to contact us. Our information's in the description.
That's right. Please feel free to call, text, or email us. Thanks again for watching. And as we like to say,
Keep Austin weird.
and keep San Antonio cool.